principal, the vice principals, human resource director, faculty, student council, students of high school. Good afternoon. I'm Brigadier General Ronald Rwivanga. I'm the Defense and Military Spokesperson. I speak on behalf of the Ministry of Defense and the Rwanda Defense Force. It is an honor for me to be here to talk to high school students about this very important topic. Kwibuka is a very important time in our history. Remember, unite, and renew. The memory of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi is something we should never, ever forget. It is something that we must maintain, and the youth have a very important task of maintaining this history. In 1994, 1 million Tutsis were brutally murdered in meticulously planned genocide that lasted over 100 days. The genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda stands as one of the darkest chapters in human history. Despite the clarity of facts, some propagandists, especially abroad, continue to deny and distort the truth about this event. They promote revisionist narratives and undermine justice and memory. In this critical moment, the youth have a unique role to play. They are not only guardians of historical truth, the youth are also torchbearers of global justice. Today, I'll talk about a very important topic: modern denial by propagandists abroad. And we shall explore how the youth can contribute to being agents of truth and influence global perceptions about the genocide against the Tutsi. That will be my role today. And to do that, I'll begin by defining some key concepts. And I think in school, this is what you do before you delve into the discussions. Okay? So the first concept is genocide. Do we all know what genocide is? The term genocide was coined in 1944 by a Polish Jewish lawyer called Raphael Lemkin, who combined two words: the Greek word genos, meaning race and people, with the Latin word or suffix called cite, which means killing. So genocide means any of the following actions committed with the intent to destroy in whole or in part. In whole or in part. A national, ethnic, racial, and religious group by killing members of the group, number one. Two, causing serious bodily harm and mental harm to members of a group. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about physical destruction in whole or in part. And then imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. Lastly, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. This is what genocide is all about. Now in Rwanda, all the above took place. People were killed, people were separated, some escaped to different parts of the region. The majority were killed, and communities were separated. So how can such an event be disputed by genocide deniers? This is happening all over the world. Just a few weeks ago, we had people attempting to equate what happened in other countries with the genocide here in Rwanda. I can state with certainty that what happened in this country has never happened anywhere in the world. The rapidity, the speed at which the killings took place in this country is unmatched, globally, unmatched. 100 days, 1 million people were killed. Do you know how many it is per day? 10,000 people were killed a day. Unmatched. Even the Holocaust, it's not good to compare, but even the Holocaust, which took years to execute, 6 million people, the numbers were higher, but the speed at which the executions took place was much less than our own history. So this is an event that can never be forgotten. So what is your role as a youth to maintain this history, to ensure that it never happens again? There are a number of roles that you can play. The first role is to preserve the truth in the digital age using social media. We have given information to you through testimonies of survivors, through books written by survivors, through research that is undertaken by both people from within and from without, telling stories about what happened. And so the information is out there. So it is up to the youth to take this information and pass it on to the whole world using our social media platforms as far as possible and as wide as possible. Now, there are many ways of doing it. One, let us pick survivors' testimonies and verified facts through engaging in formats like short videos, infographics, and reels. Let us create podcasts, blogs, and TikTok series that highlight stories of resilience and historical accuracy. Let us actively debunk denialists' content with credible sources and amplify campaigns such as Kwibuka. And when you undertake the task of debunking what the false propagandists have put forward, please use facts, not emotions. It is up to you to do research and get facts of what took place and then use them to debunk false narratives that are being propagated by haters of unity and reconciliation. We are very lucky that we have leaders that have created an environment in which you can perform all these actions with freedom, who have created the opportunity for you to research and find out about our history, who have enabled all this to be replayed for you to understand the context, the actions, the tragedies that occurred during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. This enables you to have the requisite information for you to respond on social media platforms. The second aspect is through education as a tool of resistance. Education is a powerful antidote to ignorance. You know, an antidote, it's like a vaccine to ignorance. Okay? So you need information, you need facts, you need evidence to be able to educate yourself on the historical facts that led to the genocide. And it is only through that you can avoid the occurrence of such an event in history. Okay? So how do you do that? You organize discussions, film screenings to students, exhibitions during annual commemoration events, book auditions about stories, real life stories of what people went through. I know it is bad for those who performed it to listen continuously about these facts. It is bad. It's bad for them. But it's good for those who should never let it happen again. Together? We are together? Okay. We should develop educational toolkits, lesson plans in schools, virtual museums. You don't have to go to the genocide museum to be able to understand what transpired. You can have a virtual museum that talks about some of these things so that you reduce the logistics involved in traveling. So you can globalize the information through virtual museums. Because I know all our guests, whenever guests come to RDF, the first place they have to visit is the museum. The Genocide Museum. But after that, as a message of hope, we take them through the campaign against Genocide Museum so that the story flows from tragedy to triumph, from despair to hope, from destruction to military victory, from anarchy to good governance, from bad leadership to good leadership. That is the message that we pass on to our guests who visit the RDF. And therefore, it is important that we pass on this message through our educational kits, toolkits. By learning and teaching the truth, young people become ambassadors of memory, ensuring that genocide is accurately understood by future generations. My kid often asks me questions about this event, and sometimes I wonder whether to talk about such a thing to a nursery school child. I know many of you also have questions that you still want answered, isn't it? And many a time you don't get appropriate answers. Especially when someone says, how could an individual, because a couple of you asked me a question when we were waiting to come in for the high school discussion. How could people have committed such an atrocity against babies? Honestly, it is understandable with the adults, maybe not really, because I don't think anybody deserves to be killed because of who they are. But this happened. And then they asked, how could someone have killed their own child because they are products of maybe a wife or a husband who is considered Tutsi? Who is Tutsi? Such questions are very hard to answer, but the simple answer that I gave to these students is that when you have bad leadership, anything is possible. Okay? Bad leaders can do anything. They can incite the ignorant majority to perform acts of violence against innocent civilians. And by the way, this is not just Rwanda. It can happen anywhere. We deploy in the jungles of Cabo Delgado and we see people doing the same. Okay? We see communities being persecuted for their religious beliefs simply because you are a kafir or Christian, someone will come and behead you, saying you are impure. You are religiously impure. So it exists elsewhere. It's not a reserve of our society here. It has happened in Asia. It happens in certain parts of Africa. Boko Haram does the same in Nigeria. Ansar al-Sunna wa Jama, Mozambique. Al-Hijra in Kenya. Al-Shabaab in Somalia. The list goes on and on, for different reasons, religious, ethnic, tribal, or otherwise. Okay? So we must advocate for education over ignorance, for literacy over illiteracy. The third aspect is advocating for justice and reconciliation, which is where Rwanda has really had very exemplary results globally. Our country has learned lessons from the past, and we're actually teaching conflict regions on how to deal with such matters and how to bring justice and reconciliation to society. So you have a part to play in advocating for justice and reconciliation, the continuity of the implementation of justice and reconciliation. And let me tell you one thing, the conventional justice may not necessarily work in genocide scenarios. Rwanda has actually adopted a more practical justice system through Gacaca. You know how many people we tried with the Gacaca system? Because we realized that genocide is unique and it requires adopting unconventional ways of bringing justice against those who committed atrocities. Now let me tell you why. There's a reason why. One of the reasons is that about 90% of those who performed acts of genocide were in the bandwagon category, where you either perform it or you get killed. Does that stop you from being responsible? Not necessarily. But the degree of responsibility differs. And therefore, when our president pardoned a large portion of people who were involved through the bandwagon effect, he was doing it for reconciliation. Are we together? And then you hold the masterminds responsible for the planning and execution of this unfortunate incident in our history. That's why we have people who are being held responsible in Arusha. Are we together? Who have been locked up for planning this unfortunate event. So justice and reconciliation go hand in hand. Some will be held responsible, others will be pardoned through the Gacaca system. But very important, for reconciliation to occur, there must be acceptance. And that is the primary consideration for pardon. So, through civic engagement, young people can ensure that national and international institutions uphold the truth. The fourth role you can play as the youth is through arts. What was done here a few minutes ago is a demonstration of the reality, not the entire reality. This is just a glimpse of what happened in schools. But it depicts exactly what was happening at national level, at the political realm, in governance, in the musical arts, in universities and other institutions. discrimination was just like this, like what happened in the class. And so, the arts have the power to humanize history. Play, drama, music humanizes history. It gives history the ability to penetrate our hearts in a manner. I was touched even just by a story. I've seen more, but even when they replay in a simple story of a classroom, and then the screams just enter my head and remind me of what we went through. So drama is very important in humanizing our history. Music, poetry, and other forms of visuals offer profound ways to remember and resist. I can see you have very good, by the way, there is a very good pianist that I saw here. And I was very impressed. Youth have the potential to achieve so much through music and drama. There are movies that have been acted about the genocide. We have movies like 600, that was the campaign against genocide, which is a very good movie. You need to watch it if you haven't. There are others that are not factually accurate in many ways, because drama is about making something seem close to the truth. But again, it's better than nothing. Shooting dogs, or sometimes in Apple, and several other movies in theater. We runners need to tell our story, and we have to tell it accurately. Not the Hotel Rwanda heroism. Not that. We need facts about what really happened. Okay? We can compose songs. We do that every day. Spoken word pieces, poetry, based on survivor stories. Collaborate on murals, digital exhibitions, and documentary projects. Use storytelling as an avenue to tell our stories. And you know, it's unfortunate that the best individuals to tell our story are those who experienced, and some of them don't have the energy to go through the nitty-gritties, the details of what occurred. But let us sit with them, young men and women, sit with them and write their story. Take baby steps in listening to the old, who are now in their 60s. I think most who experienced this genocide are in their 50s and 60s. Talk to them in your free time and take notes, and then write their history. Today, in Europe and the United States, people are still writing versions of World War, because the message is passed on from generation to generation of what happened in that war. So you can also do the same by listening to stories from those that experienced the genocide. Okay? These creative expressions do more than inform the public. They also evoke empathy and action, and they touch audiences in powerful ways. I can tell you that it is through these arts that actually your story can be told effectively. Social media is okay, yes, you can react, you can do, but it is important for us to tell our story through the arts. And that is when we can penetrate the global stage. Okay? And then we also have to build global solidarity. The struggle against genocide denial is not confined in Rwanda. It is global. There are narratives every day that are coming up about a double genocide. Have you heard of double genocide? This kind of discrimination that you saw here, they're saying, no, it was two-sided. Really? Two-sided? Even small incidences, killing is killing, yes, but even incidences in which the leadership took strong measures are being equated to a double genocide. Incidences where our own president arrested individuals who were only trying to respond to an emotional disturbance. I give you an example. We have commanders on the ground who would arrive in a village where their parents and siblings were all slaughtered. And then they would point a finger at who did it. And their reaction would be, which I believe any of you here would find natural, was to pick his AK-47, he's a trained shooter, and then he would react by killing the same people who killed. Is that poetic justice? Naturally it is. But we would hold such people responsible and put them to justice. Why? We are sending a message. You cannot put the law in your hands. Okay? So our president was very resolute about that. And so such people were held responsible. An eye for an eye cannot bring reconciliation. It cannot. So, for someone therefore to come and say, oh, because of a mere incident in which measures were taken, that there was double genocide. It's pathetic to say the least. It is unfortunate. Okay? So, it is our role to build global solidarity and to fight these false narratives. Another important development lately is where some individuals have come up and addressed the United Nations Security Council saying, you see what happened, and they do it exactly at the same time that we remember 1 million people. And our president told them, please forgive us for these 7 days. Forgive us and respect us for 7 days. But someone gave an entire speech about double genocide in another country. Can you imagine that? That is to disrespect the essence, the significance of Kwibuka. Are we together? So it's important for us to have global solidarity. So through unity, young people can shape a global culture that values truth, justice, and reconciliation. So as voices of a new generation, young men and women, high school students, you've got a role to play to ensure that we fight against genocide denial. I have a story that I keep telling people. During the insurgents, young men like you and women, ladies and gentlemen, were in a school called Inyanje. And these insurgents came, extremists, and they burst into a classroom. And they told students exactly what was dramatized here. Who is Hutu and who is Tutsi? The students refused to identify themselves. 6 of them were slaughtered. And they still refused. We consider those Inyanje students to be heroes. And they were not soldiers, by the way. They were just students like you. They refused to identify themselves because of the dark history that they did not want to go back to. Okay? So in conclusion, therefore, the memory of genocide against Tutsi is not just Rwanda's burden. It is a shared human responsibility. I'm glad that we have different nationalities here. It is your responsibility too, for you to pass on this message, to to the international community, to the world at large, that genocide should never happen again. Never again. By standing for truth today, the youth ensure that the world remembers, learns, and never repeats the tragedies of the past. And of course, despite a few elements of denial that we see here and there, at least to a large extent, progress has been made. Thank you very much.